All right, welcome everyone. New day, brand new lecture, and lots of brand new marks in store for this one. Welcome to SMAT. Today's agenda is to do a nice revision, a complete in-depth revision. We end it with an examination question to test your knowledge on this chapter called Income from Salaries. Personally, when I was studying, Income from Salaries was a chapter I used to run away from because I used to find it really difficult. But I'll make sure that you guys enjoy this chapter because I've simplified it through a lot of shortcuts. Whichever faculty you've gone to and studied doesn't matter, whichever books you're referring to doesn't matter. You'll really enjoy this lecture and you'll take a lot from it. So here we go, guys. Income from salaries. If you're already a student of mine, you know that we don't call it employer employee, we call it master and slave. I hope you remember, guys. This is master, that is, your employer is a master and the employee is called a slave. Because two reasons for it. Because whenever I did a job, honestly, I felt there was a lot of slavery, especially in India. So master slave relationship I have developed from that perspective. Also, it is much easier to understand things when you don't confuse yourself with employer employee. In the exam, of course, you can write employer employee, but right now, for our understanding and for every bit of understanding, master and slave, master is your employer and slave is the employee. Let's start off with income from salaries. Guys, here the sections are only three, and we will talk about sections in the end. There are only three sections: 15, 16, and 17. Only three sections. As you know, if you've been a student, the surgeon takes up his first job at the age of 15, and hence at the age of 15 salary starts. So sections will deal at the end, and the main shortcut for salaries is SAP less SEP. That's it, guys. This is salaries chapter. SAP less SEP is the salaries chapter. That means salaries, allowances, and perquisites. You will add the salary, the allowances, and perquisites. You will add, and you will minus three things: deductions. That is SEP. There are three things that you will minus as deductions. So you add first whatever you have to add. These things will be added. From these things, these will minus, and that's your income from salaries. Because again, the agenda of the government is to tax the final income, final profit. So SAP minus SEP is the agenda. You have to do one by one. We'll do all of them. Let's start with the easier part first. Let's start with SEP, that is the deductions. So I'm putting it here, guys. SEP, those are the three deductions. Let's talk about them. The first one is the easiest one, and it's a standard deduction of 50,000 rupees. This used to be earlier 40,000, they increased it to 50,000. So from 2021 onwards, your year onwards is 50,000 standard deduction. So whatever is your income, tomorrow you'll be a CA. In our example, the surgeon's son or was working with SpiceJet. In that case, guys, whatever salary you get and is calculated under SAP, you will minus 50,000 flat. Do you need to spend any money? No. Do you need to show any proof? Nothing, guys. And that's why it's called a standard deduction of 50,000 rupees. Next is an entertainment allowance deduction. Again, I repeat, entertainment allowance deduction. This one is only given to government employees. So if you're a normal employee, not a government employee, this one is not for you. Only government employees get it, and that too the ones who get entertainment allowance. So you should get that allowance. If you get that allowance, you know, A for allowance, A for add. We will see that in allowance when we discuss SAP. But right now, entertainment allowance will first be added. So you'll first add. Let's say your boss gave you an employee entertainment allowance of 60,000. So you'll add that 60,000, and from that you will minus the least of the following. What are the three things that is least of? The entertainment allowance that you receive, whatever that you've received it. Let's say 60,000 is what you received. That's an example only, guys. Or 50,000 rupees, 5,000 rupees, sorry, 5,000 rupees, or 20% of your basic salary, least of the following. We will see basic salary, guys, as a shortcut to remember different parts of salary, but right now you'll remember 20% of basic salary. So the first one, there is no calculation involved because whatever you receive, that one. The second one is a flat amount of 55,000 rupees, that does not change. And last is 20% of your basic salary. So whatever your basic salary is, 20% of that, and you'll get A, B, and C. The least of the following will be given a deduction. So let's say this is 60,000, this is 5,000, and let's say this comes up to be 62,000. So least of the following is 5,000, so you will minus 5,000. So you'll add the allowance and minus the deduction. This is entertainment allowance deduction. And last, guys, P is professional tax. Many states levy a small tax because you're a professional. It's not on your income. Because you're a professional, you have to pay certain tax. It's a very small amount. If you pay it, if the slave pays it, then you get a deduction. But if the master pays it and the slave does not return that money, so then the slave will not get a deduction. So only on payment basis. This can be compared to municipal tax in IFHP. In house property, only if you pay municipal tax, only if you pay, or tenant pays, you don't get a deduction. So you got to pay it. If your master pays it and you reimburse it to the master, ultimately you paid it, so you have to make the payment. Only then you get a deduction. This is SAP, and guys, we're done with deductions already. So simple, guys. Deductions we are already done with. Now let's go to SAP. SAP. Other things that we need to add: salary you'll add, allowances you'll add, perquisites you'll add. We'll do it one by one. Let's take salary first. I'm putting the important parts under salary. So, guys, first up, who gets a salary and what is a salary? Before starting my own firm and before starting to teach, I used to work with EY, and then also before with that with PwC. And when I used to work with them, whatever I would earn is called salary. That means there should be an employer-employee relationship. In our example, master-slave relationship. But now I have a lot of clients, I have a lot of institutions where I teach, so they pay me. That is not salary because they're not my employers, they're not my masters. Next, it can be full-time employment or it can be part-time employment, doesn't matter. Guys, if I'm full-time working at EY, even that is employment. If I'm working full part-time with EY and part-time with another CA firm, even those both are my employer-employee relationships, no problem. Guys, salary is taxable on due basis or receipt basis, whichever is earlier. Whichever is earlier, they tax you on. That means due or receipt, whichever is earlier, they tax you on due or receipt, whichever is earlier. Example, for the month of March, my salary was received on 31st March. It will be taxable in 31st March, in this month, in this year only. But for the month of 31st March, let's say it becomes due on 1st April and it's received on 5th April, then it will be taxed next year. So please remember due or receipt, whichever is earlier. That means any method of accounting they follow, or no, they don't follow any method of accounting. Whatever method you follow, you might follow, but they take due or receipt, whichever is earlier. Earlier because the government wants early tax. Next, guys, if you forego your salary, what is forego and how you remember it? Forego means I don't want it. You tell the employer that you can spend it on something that you tell them to. Forego, guys, the shortcut is forego follows. F for forego, F for follows. It follows you back. You'll still have to pay a tax on it. But if you surrender your salary, there is a surrender of salary, surrender of income act. Under that, you surrender to the government. Then the shortcut is surrender. It stops. That means after that there is no taxation. Once you surrender, there is no taxation. For foregoing salary, there is taxation. If you take advance salary, let's say right now is the month of May and you want June salary in advance. If you take advance salary, it's received by you, and you know due or receive, whichever is earlier. So advance salary is taxed. So advance salary is nothing but getting it earlier, and getting it earlier means receiving it earlier. Oh, due or receive, whichever is earlier. It's not due, but it's received, so it will be taxable. But if you take a loan, guys, if you take a loan, if you go to your master and say that, listen, I need some money, there's a wedding in the family, I need a loan, that loan is a liability, so that will not be taxable. I hope you understood that one. So surrender of salary, it stops. Foregoing of salary, it follows you. Advance salary is taxable. Loan is a liability which is not taxable. So these are some basic rules of salary before we move ahead. Okay, salary can be given in different parts. Let's see the shortcuts for the different parts. One is called basic salary, and basic salary we will call it B. In our shortcut, we will call it D for basic salary. Next is dearness allowance. Guys, dearness allowance is basically because you are working in a big city which is expensive. Dearness basically means inflation, expensive, and hence they give you some money. And dearness allowance can be broken up into two parts. One is that dearness allowance which is forms part of retirement benefits, which we will call D, and that dearness allowance which does not form part of retirement benefits. So in the exam, they will give you dearness allowance and they will tell you that this 40% or 20% or 10% is as per terms or as per retirement benefits. Then separate it immediately and call one D, and the other one which is not in terms of retirement benefit, we'll call it OD. So B, this one is B, this is D, and this is OD. Next is commission. Guys, if commission is given as a percentage of turnover, let's say you get 1% commission on the turnover. If that is given in the exam, then that is called C, which is a percentage of turnover. But if it's just given that there's a commission of 50,000 rupees a year or commission of 5,000 rupees a month, then that is called OC. Guys, these are shortcuts only for you and me so that we can ace the exam really well. Next, after that, guys, they can give you Diwali bonus, Christmas bonus, monthly bonus, Pongal bonus, Rakhi bonus, whatever bonuses, etc. they give you. These are all part of salary which you will tax. Please remember, whatever the joining date of your organization, if you join the organization today, that is 21st of May, then salary will only be from 21st May. So that date should be remembered. All the salary is taxable on due or receipt basis, whichever is earlier. B, D, OD, C, OC. And guys, most common salary, whenever we talk about salary in for calculation purposes, the most common salary is B, D, C. B is basic, D is that dearness allowance, which is in terms of retirement benefits, and C is that commission, which is a percentage of turnover. So B, D, C is the most common one to be used whenever we talk about salary. That means B, D, C, unless we state otherwise. Guys, that is salary. That's about it. You add up the salaries, SAP, whatever the SAP is. S we've already done, SEP we've already done. So now let's look at allowances. Guys, when we look at allowances, we're looking at ASAP. Now we're looking at allowances. Allowances are really simple. And if you follow my shortcut, you'll love allowances. Guys, the moment they give you an allowance in the exam, allowance is like a pocket money given by your parent. Can your parent give you pocket money for mobile phone recharge? Yes. For traveling? Yes. For movie ticket? Yes. For drinking? Maybe. Why not? Some parents are really cool about it. For going for movies? Yes. So allowances are like pocket money. Your parents can give you same way allowances here are given by a master to the slave. And the moment you see allowances, A for allowance, A for add. The first thing you will do whenever you get allowances in your exam, you will add it in the inner column, you will add it. And after you add it, can you get some deductions from this? Yes, you get some exemptions from this. Let's tackle the exemptions. The first set of exemptions we're talking about, the one that I'm going to talk about first is HRA, house rent allowance. Your master has given you house rent allowance. You will not question it. The moment the exam says house rent allowance, you will add it first. After you add it, you will get a deduction to the least of the following. What is least of the following? The HRA that you receive. Let's say, for example, you got a HRA of 1,50,000. So whatever HRA you receive, that is A, first one. Second, the rent that you pay. HRA is house rent allowance. That means, guys, they're assuming that you stay in a house on rent. So whatever rent you pay, let's say you pay 10,000 rupees per month minus 10% of salary. And what is salary? BDC, guys. Everywhere salary is BDC unless I stated otherwise. And last C, it's either 40% or 50% of salary. 40% if you're staying in a non-metro city like Nagpur, Pune, etc., and 50% if you're staying in a metro city. There are 4 metro cities in India: Delhi, Mumbai, Chennai, and Calcutta. There's 50% of salary. Again, salary is BDC. So the moment you get an HRA question, which can be there in the exam, guys, the moment you get HRA, what do you do? First thing is you add. So let's say you get an HRA of 1,50,000. So you will add that 1,50,000, and from that, will you minus anything? Yes, the HRA received or the rent paid minus 10% of salary or 40% or 50% of salary. So in HRA, some guys, you have to calculate this and keep it ready. 10% of salary you calculate and keep it ready. 40-50% of salary you calculate and keep it ready. And so then you'll get these, and the least of the following will be allowed as a deduction. The least of the following will be allowed as a deduction. So yes, HRA has a deduction. So let's say this is 1,50,000. Let's say this comes up to be 40,000, rent paid minus 10% of salary. And let's say this comes up to be 45,000. So whatever, or let's say 4,50,000, whatever is least, 40,000 is the least. So you'll minus 40,000. So 40,000 is an exemption. 1,10,000 will be taxable. This what you saw is HRA. Guys, HRA, the allowance can be given to you even if you have your own house, but you will not get the deduction. If you have your own house or you stay with your parents and you're not paying rent, if you're not paying rent, you will not get this deduction. Of course, allowances you can get. It's like your parents giving you a movie allowance. What if you don't like movies? So then will they stop the allowance? No, it's their wish. They can give you allowance. So allowance, the moment it's given in the exam, you will add it, but deduction you will minus only and only if you've taken some place on rent. BDC is the salary here, and this HRA allowance is under section 1013A. Remember, guys, the house number which you stay in, which our surgeon's son was saying the shortcut was 13A. So 1013A is HRA. But the exemption is very small. Under 1013A, the exemption is very small, and hence you get a little disappointed, and hence that's a next shortcut, guys. Let me first explain all the shortcuts and then I'll summarize it, and you'll find allowances very simple in the exam. HRA, which we just saw, can demotivate, and hurt heartbeat. So this is the shortcut. Let's quickly see. HRA we've already seen, which is under section 1013A. All these guys are in one section only, that is section 1014. So you don't have to remember the section. All these, first, of course, their allowances. The moment you get it, what will you do? The first step is you will add. The first step you will add, and then you'll minus an exemption, which is under section 1014. Anyways, guys, forget the section right now. Let's focus on can demotivate, hurt heartbeat. What is can? Can is conveyance allowance. Basically, if your master gives you conveyance allowance, you will first add it. And will you minus anything? Yes, whatever amount you spent on conveyance, except going from your house to office and back, that you cannot minus. Next, D is daily allowance. Again, that allowance you will add, and you will minus whatever you spent on daily expenses for your official purposes, not for house purpose. H is, guys, helper allowance. U is uniform allowance. R is research allowance, and T is tour and transfer allowance. Let me explain, guys. Helper allowance, uniform allowance, research allowance, and tour and transfer allowances, all these allowances will be first be added. And then can you minus anything? Yes, whatever amount you spent on the helper for official purposes, not your house help. Uniform, when you make uniform for offices, like certain offices have to compulsory to make uniforms, you have to wear uniform, like Starbucks, Uber, etc. has uniforms. R is research. If you do research for office and you spend money, that you can minus. And tour and transfer, whenever you get to on a tour, or where you get, whenever you get transferred, then in that case, if you spend some money, you will get a deduction. So guys, for this, you get deduction on the amount that you spent. So can, demotivate, hurt is the amount that you spend. Allowances are first added, and then you can minus if you spend money. HRA also, but it is least of the following: HRA amount received, or rent paid minus 10% of salary, or 40-50% of salary. And the last word, guys, heartbeat. These heartbeat you can count, right? You can count. So they are fixed. They are not on amount spent. This is on amount spent, but this is fixed because heartbeat you can count. Guys, let's talk about heartbeat. In heartbeat, I'm just writing it here so that I can elaborate it. In heartbeat, there are 5 allowances. Let's look at that. First one is hostel allowance. For your children hostel, your master pays some money. The master is very kind. For your children who are studying in a hostel, these pays you allowances. So you will add the allowance, but you will get a deduction of only 300 per month per child, maximum 2 children. Same way, for your children's education, he pays you allowance. You add that allowance. You cannot stop him, guys. Whatever allowance he gives you, take it and add it, and you will minus 100 per month per child. Very small allowances. Hostel 300, education 100, and maximum 2 children. Next, this one is a really interesting one. This is B. B is for blind, deaf, dumb, handicapped. If you're a handicapped, blind, deaf, dumb person, then we understand your problem. Then if you get some allowances for traveling, you will add it and you will minus 3,200 per month. All these amounts are per month. Why is this given to you? Because you're blind, deaf, dumb, handicapped. It's very difficult for you to go from home to office. We normal people, when we go from home to office, we don't get a reduction. Conveyance does not cover that. But blind, deaf, dumb, handicapped people get 3,000 per month deduction. Next, A is area based allowance. Basically, if you are working in an underground area or a mining area or a tribal area, or let's say a Siachen or a very high altitude area, then you get an area based allowances. So that allowance, of course, you will add first and you will minus depending on what is given in the exam. If it's underground, let's say it is 800 per month. If it's tribal area, then it is 200 per month. You will minus it, whatever is given in the exam. You don't have to by heart that entire list, guys, because I have seen that area based allowance, if they give you, they will also give you the amount that is to be deducted or that is to be exempted. And last, very important, transport sector employee. Who's a transport sector employee? Someone who's working in the railways, like a TT, or someone who's working in the, as a pilot in the plane. They are moving from one place to the other. So for them, whatever allowance they will get, they will first add the allowances and then they will minus either 70% of the allowance received or 10,000 per month, whichever is low. How will you remember whichever is low? In HRA also we saw whichever is low. Here also, guys, because they're giving an exemption, which is a benefit they're giving you, so they can't give you unlimited benefits, so hence whichever is lower. So transport sector allowance, you will add it and then you will minus 70% or 10,000 per month. Guys, these are all the allowances. Besides that, if you get some allowance, like let's say you get a overtime allowance, you add it, no deduction. You get a movie allowance, popcorn allowance, you get a medical allowance, you get a servant allowance, added, but no deduction in these cases. I hope this is understood. So if someone tells you our allowance is taxable, yes, they are taxable because allowances are first always added. A for allowances, A for add. So you will first add them, but of course you can minus certain exemptions like 1013A, like 1014. You can minus certain exemptions on the amount that is spent or on a fixed amount. Guys, these are allowances that are taxable, but some part of that is given a discount as an exemption. Don't worry, guys. Whatever in the exam they give you tiffin allowance, first allowance straight away added, and then see this line: HRA can, demotivate, hurt, heartbeat, and if it doesn't belong to this line, no exemption. Certain people are very important and we have to not tax them at all. So those allowances are fully exempt, guys. Those allowances are fully exempt. I'll give you a shortcut there as well. Two judges, two judges, UN abroad. Actually, two judges left for UN abroad, but left for is silent. So two judges left for, but left for is silent. UN abroad. See, important people, we can't tax their allowances. So hence, these two judges who left for UN abroad, we are not taxing their allowances. So in their case, if you give them allowance, will you add them? Yes. Will you minus the entire thing? Yes. That means everything is non-taxable here, everything is exempted here. So two judges, let's quickly see. Supreme Court judge and High Court judges, when you pay them any allowances. or any other judges when you pay them compensatory allowances. What are compensatory allowances? Let's say for a driver, to compensate for a lack of driver, you give them some money, or those kind of allowances are compensatory allowances. UN, any UN employees in India, United Nations, guys, very important organization. So their employees, if they get any allowances, UN employees, they get allowances, that is exempt. And abroad, guys, Indian citizen working abroad, example for government of India. Example, if you remember my previous exempt income chapter, or if my student, you know the chapter already, that Indian citizen working abroad in the Indian embassy in France. So let's say in the Indian embassy in France, there's an Indian citizen who's working and the government pays him salary. That salary is taxable in India because that is deemed income, section 913. But irrespective of that, forget that, even if you don't recollect that, when an Indian citizen is working abroad in the Indian embassy in France, for example, and the government of India is paying him allowances, that allowances, those are exempt under section 10(7). This you can also plug in from exempt income chapter. So these four allowances, they are fully exempt. That means you will not tax them at all. The earlier ones, HRA can demotivate, hurt, heartbeat. In that case, you'll first add them and then you'll minus based on either spending amount or a fixed amount. Besides that, guys, any allowance that you get will always be taxable and will be completely and fully taxable. I'll give you for example. Let's say the government says the exam says medical allowance, tax it. Servant allowance, tax it. Allowance means added, no deduction. Let's say a tiffin allowance, tax it. Driver allowance, whatever allowance they give you, you add it, no exemption, because it does not belong to any of these two lines. So we've completed S, we've completed A. Now let's look at P, that is perquisite. Perquisite is really simple. Perquisite basically means your master is paying you, but paying you in kind. Example, he gives you a clubhouse membership. So these are basically perquisites which are in kind. And if the master is giving you a perquisite in kind, it's again a benefit to you. So the government said these also need to be added. You need to add them, but how will you add them? Because how do I value something which is provided in kind? So they give you valuation rules. They have given you how to value it. And once you value this and once you value it, great, you just have to keep adding it to the salary. Allowances are perquisites are many, guys. Let's do one by one all the different perquisites. First is credit card. You got a credit card, you're a slave, you got a credit card, and your master is paying the annual fee. So please add the annual fee, the value, whatever is paid. He pays for your personal expenses, like you shop for your house and he pays for it. That's a benefit you're getting. So add that also. But he pays for official purposes. Of course, he only has to pay for official purposes. So there is no benefit there. If there is no benefit, there is no purpose. So that is credit card. Next, let's take clubhouse. We're looking at it in no particular order, guys. We're randomly looking at all the different purposes, but we'll complete all of them with some good shortcuts. Wait with me. Clubhouse. Guys, your master is very happy with you and he gives you a clubhouse membership or a gymnasium membership, clubhouse gymnasium membership given only to you. You will add whatever he is paid for you. But again, a clubhouse or membership or gym for every employee, let's say in the office only there's a gym, so that will not be added. Otherwise, it will be added. Any medical insurance taken for you will also not be added, guys, because medical insurance is taken for everyone, including you. So that is not added as a perquisite. So I'm just writing here what is not a perquisite. Medical insurance is not a perquisite. I'm just putting a cross. So these are not perquisites. And a gym which is for all, a common gym, is not a perquisite. Next, let's look at a very important one, which is medical facility. Medical facility. Guys, don't worry. At the end of all SAP and SEP, we'll also look at an examination question to help you understand how this is to be dealt with. In case of medical facility, guys, medical facility can be in India or can be abroad. So whether it's India or whether it's abroad, first step is the medical facility is for your family members. Family members means you, plus your spouse, plus your children, always, and parents and siblings only if dependent. Parents and siblings only if dependent. So if they are giving you medical facility for these people, then only you go to step 2. Guys, example, let's say they give medical facility to your spouse. Now step 1 is over. Step 2 is basically if it's a private hospital, then it will be taxable. It will be taxable. If it's given in a government hospital, or it is given in a self-managed hospital. What is a self-managed hospital? Let's say your master itself has a hospital like Reliance Hospital or SpiceJet Hospital, then in that case it will not be taxable. And in a hospital which is approved by the Commissioner of Income Tax, the Commissioner has approved hospital and that they give treatment. In that case, guys, there will be no perquisite. So when will there be a perquisite? Only when it's not for family members and it's given in a private hospital. So step 1, if it's for family members means you, spouse, children, always your parents and siblings, they're dependent on you. And only if it's in a private hospital, then it will be taxable. If it's in the government's or self-managed hospital or commissioner approved hospital, then it is not a perquisite. This is in India, guys. This one is medical facility in India. Now, what are the medical facilities abroad? Let's look at the medical facility and let's look at abroad, guys. Abroad, sometimes for serious illnesses, you might have to travel abroad, and your master might pay for it. So there are three kinds of expenditures. One is the treatment, one is your stay, and one is your travel. Treatment and stay are perfectly okay as long as RBI limits, within the RBI limits the master is paying. That's not to be added as a perquisite. Treatment and stay for you and for one accompanied person, because when you're ill you need some person to accompany you. So treatment and stay for you and for one accompaniment, no problem. But for travel, guys, there's a condition. The condition is only if you're poor, it will not be added to the perquisite. Poor means your GTI should be maximum up to 2 lakhs. If your gross total income is up to 2 lakhs, we understand you are poor, you don't have too much money, and hence this will not be added to your perquisite. Again, guys, this has to be only for your family members, that is you, your spouse, your children, and your parents or siblings if they're dependent on you. That's a medical allowance. Let's look at leave travel concession. Guys, leave travel concession is more like a benefit or exemption. Let's look at that. Guys, it's very important to go on holidays. It's very important to travel, and hence LTC was introduced. They said that 2 holidays you can take in a block of 4 years. 2 holidays in a block of 4 years, and the block, basically the current block starts in the year 2022, 18, 19, 20, and 21. So this is a block of 4 years. In that, twice you can go for a holiday, and not for your stay, not for your food, but for your travel. It's a leave travel concession. For your travel, the employer can pay you, and when he pays you, then that is not a perquisite. Guys, that is an exemption. Leave travel concession is an exemption. So you travel by air, economy class, rail first class, bus first class, motor car, etc. Also shortest route possible. So let's say you're going for a holiday to Andaman Nicobar Islands or to Kashmir, etc. Then the travel bit for you, your spouse, plus maximum 2 children, it will not be added to the perquisite. And 2 children, how? As if the first one is a normal child, and second time your wife was pregnant and there are twins, then in that case even 3 kids are normally okay, because that's not your mistake. So the first kid is 1 kid, and the second you were having only one, but there were twins or triplets, then it's not your mistake. So for all those children, it will be allowed as a perquisite. But guys, otherwise, let's say your spouse have 5 children, then for all 5 children, if the master pays you, he can pay you, but the perquisite will only be exempt up to 2 children, and that is only be for air, rail, bus, and car for the shortest route possible. That is LTC. It has a separate section called section 10.5. Till now, we've seen a couple of sections like 10.13. One we've seen 13A, HRA. 10.14 is can demotivate, hurt, heartbeat. That is 10.14. Then we've seen 10.7, which are allowances for the abroad guy who was working in the Indian embassy in France. Example 10.7, and 10.5 we are seeing is LTC. I hope you understand that. Let's move on the other perquisites. Guys, the next perquisite is an education facility. Now, education facility is for you, your spouse, or your children. If education facility is given for you, no problem. If your master is sponsoring your MBA, no perquisite. But if it's giving to your spouse or your children, especially your children, then it is a perquisite. Depending, if you select the education institution, then whatever the master pays for the school fees, etc., will be added as a perquisite value. But if the master only selects it, so he says no, he should go to that school, then whatever is a similar school's value, you will add that, and you will get minus 1,000 per month deduction per child. I repeat, if you select the school, then whatever your master pays, so let's say you want your kids to go to a particular school and you select ABC school, and your master pays the salary, then whatever fee is paid will be added as a perquisite. But in case the master selects the school, then he says no, your kids will go, all the kids from my company will go to this school only. So whatever is the cost of similar school, or whatever is the market price of similar school, will be added. The fee of the similar school will be added, and you will get minus 1,000 per month per child. Unlimited number of children, no limit. Hostel education allowance had a limit. Here there is no limit. But guys, if your master is putting your sister's child, or your, let's say, someone else in a school, then the 1,000 per month deduction you will not get. This 1,000 per month will not be available. If it's some other child, only for your children you will get 1,000 per month deduction. This is education facility deduction and perquisite. Let's move ahead. All right, let's move ahead, guys, to the next perquisite. The next perquisite is very interesting. It's a loan. Guys, can your master give you a loan? Of course, he should help you in very difficult times. So loan up to 20,000. Guys, no problem with a loan up to 20,000, but that amount has to be cumulative. Loan for medical purposes also, there is no problem. Loan for medical purposes also. Loan up to 20,000, there is no problem for small loans, but guys, cumulatively it should not go up to more than 20,000. So if you get one loan of 12,000 and one loan of 9,000, that is 21,000, then on that there will be a perquisite valuation, which we will see how. Medical loans, again, it's a very good thing and hence there is no perquisite. But any other loan, so let's say you're getting married or you want to go for honeymoon and you take a loan from your master, then that loan will be taxable. How will it be taxable? Not the loan amount, the interest will be taxable. How will you compare the interest? So first you will take the SBI interest rate at the start of the year. Let's say the SBI on that type of loan, let's say marriage, let's say personal loan, SBI charges 8%. And your master is charging you only 2%. So the benefit you're getting is 6% into the loan amount for how many months you've used that loan will be added as a perquisite. Guys, medical loan and 20,000 up to that amount loan, there is no problem. In case of medical loan, let's say you're not well and you took a 50,000 rupee loan from a master, then that is not added as a perquisite. No interest calculation on that. But please remember, if your medical insurance pays you 40,000 out of it back, then that 40,000 has to be paid back to the master by the end of that month in which you receive that money. So let's say you receive the money today, 21st May, medical insurance paid you 40,000. Then by 31st May, you should pay the employer 40,000. If you don't pay it by the end of the month, then from the 1st of May, that is the first day of the month, it will be start taking as a loan and you will start have to pay interest on that to as a perquisite. Guys, this is loan. Let's move to the next one. Next one is domestic servant. Can your employer give you a domestic servant? Can they employ a domestic servant? Can they pay the salary? Yes, but that will be added as a perquisite. Whatever they're paying will be added as a perquisite. If they give you a domestic servant allowance, allowance is A for allowance, A for add, but you will not minus anything because it does not belong to the sentence under section 1013A or 1014. Next, gas, electricity, water. In your house, gas, electricity, water, can it be allowed, can it be paid, or can it be supplied by the master? Of course he can supply it. And so then whatever he's paying on for the gas, electricity and water, let's say the bill is 5,000 each, so 15,000 he's paying, so 15,000 will be added as a perquisite in your hands. But what if he only generating power? What if he's generating the electricity, or what if he's generating the gas or water? Then in that case, whatever is his manufacturing cost will be added. It's a very rare case, but let's say you're working for Adani Gas, or let's say you're working for Reliance Power, then in that case they generate their own power and hence the manufacturing cost will be which is a perquisite value which will be added. Guys, here let's look at what other deductions. Yes, one major deduction, that is accommodation. Very common. It's a very common thing that your master will give you accommodation. He says that, listen, I like the slavery that you do. You're a very dedicated slave. I want to give you accommodation in the city that I'm making you work. So if he gives you accommodation which he has taken on hire, he is also taken out on rent, so the higher charges or 15% of salary. The definition of salary is different, which we'll talk about in 2 minutes. So or 15% of salary, whichever is lower, thankfully will be added as a perquisite value. But in case the accommodation is owned by your master, he does not hire it, it is owned by him, then it will either be 15% of salary or 10% of salary or 7.5% of salary. Again, the salary is something that we'll discuss again depending on population. So if the population is a large city like Mumbai, Bangalore, Calcutta, etc., then it will be 15% because 20 more than 25 lakhs. If it's between 10 and 25 lakhs, then it will be 10%. If it's less than 10 lakhs or up to 10 lakhs, then it will be 7.5% of salary. And last, guys, if it's hotel accommodation. In case of hotel accommodation, let's say he provides you hotel accommodation, then it will be 24% of your salary. Why such a high amount? Because hotels are more expensive, or the amount that he pays, or 24% of salary, whichever is lower. But please remember, if he is giving you hotel accommodation because you're being transferred, let's say you're being transferred from Bangalore to Bombay or from Bombay to Delhi, then for 15 days he provides you hotel accommodation, no problem. After the 15 days, so I'm just writing as an exception 15 days here. In exceptional cases, 15 days is okay. Otherwise, after that, it will be started adding as a perquisite. Also, accommodation if it's provided in remote areas which are more than 40 kilometers away from the city, and if it's a modest accommodation, that means it's a very small house up to 80 square meter, roughly around 800 square feet, then in that case, there will be no accommodation. Also, if he gives you two accommodation, let's say you're being transferred from Bangalore to Mumbai, or let's say from Bangalore to Mysore, and he's giving you two accommodations because you're in the middle of the shifting, then for 90 days you can take any accommodation whose value is lower, but after 90 days both the accommodation value will be considered as a perquisite because he is providing you that accommodation. Guys, the salary here is everything. I mean by everything, SAP, everything. Yes, everything, but the few things you cannot take OD in this salary of accommodation owned, accommodation hired, or hotel accommodation. In this case, the salary definition is slightly different. You take everything in SAP except you don't take OD. So OD you don't take. Then you don't take arrears of salary or advance salary, which we will see soon in a section called relief. But area salary, that means some previous year's salary that you're getting today, or advance salary, that is next year's salary that you're getting today, that you don't take. And any non-monetary perquisite, you will not take these we will not take, except these you will take everything. So will you take an allowance? Yes, you will take an allowance, but only taxable amount. That means you'll add the allowance, you'll minus the exemption, and whatever is taxable, you will take in the salary, and you'll calculate 15%, 15, 10, 7.5%, or 24% of salary. Next, guys, is furniture. Furniture is movable asset, but let's discuss this separately. So in the house, he also provides you furniture, and the furniture, if it's on hire, then the higher charges or 10% of the actual cost, not the WDV, guys, actual cost of the furniture. And whatever they're not taken on hire, then 10% of the actual cost will be taken as the perquisite value. Next, movable asset. When you join an office, guys, you're generally going to be provided with a laptop and with a mobile phone, with an office laptop and office mobile phone. They're mobile assets. If mobile assets you're using and you're using for official purposes, then it's no personal benefit and hence no perquisite value. But if you're using it for personal purposes as well, example, let's say you take a projector from the office and you watch at home movies on that projector on weekends, so using it for personal purposes, then it will be 10% of the actual cost, just like furniture. But for this, there are certain exceptions like laptop, computer, mobile phone, journals. In these cases, even if you watch Netflix on your office computer, there's no problem with usage or personal usage on four things: laptops, computers, mobile phones, and journals. There is an exception to that in case of usage. But if the assets are sold to you, let's say you like the projector a lot, or you like the laptop a lot, or you like the office car a lot, and you buy it, then is there a perquisite value? Yes. So whatever is the cost of the asset, whatever is the cost, that means the WDV generally of the asset, or the value of the asset in the books of the employer or the master, minus whatever you've paid for it. So let's say you like the office projector, and the projector's value in the books of accounts is 80,000, and you pay only 1,000 for it. So 79,000 is a benefit that you've got. So it will be added to the salary. Now, how do you calculate this WDV? You take the depreciation as per PGBP. No, there's separate depreciation here. Unfortunately, it is 50% of WDV in the case of any electronic item which has memory, like computer, laptops, etc., which have memory. 20% WDV in case of motor cars, and 10% SLM in the case of other things, example projector, example, any other asset besides these two will be 10% SLM. But 10% SLM means, guys, over 10 years the value will become zero, and hence after 10 years, if the asset is given to you, there will be no perquisite valuation. And also, if your employer or master is like LG Electronics, or like if you're working for Apple or Samsung and they give you a mobile phone at a discounted price, then there is no perquisite valuation in that case. One more perquisite that comes to my mind is motor car. Guys, let's quickly look at motor car also as a perquisite before we end perquisites. Guys, it's very common. Sometimes your employer, your master gives you a motor car. So if it's owned by the employer and he also provides you the expenses like your petrol, diesel, your driver salary in that motor car, everything he's providing. And if it's used for official purposes, then there's no problem at all, because the car has to be used for official purposes. If it's used for personal purposes, that means you take it home and you use it only for personal purposes, then whatever is the expense plus 10% of the actual cost of the car, original cost, actual cost of the car, will be added as a perquisite value. And if it's partly used for personal and partly for official, that means you're also using on weekends from home and on the weekdays you're using it for office, then in that case it will be divided depending upon the cc or the engine of the car. If the cc of the car is low, that is up to 1.6, that is 1600 cc, then what will be added is 1800 per month for the car and 900 for the salary of the driver. And if the car is a big car, more than 1600 cc, then 2400 will be added per month for the car and 900 for the driver's salary. This will be added. But guys, let's say the car is owned by the employer, but the expenses you are paying. Let's take another situation that is owned by the car, but the expenses you are paying. Then in that case, official purposes, no problem. Personal purposes, and here is partly personal, partly official. Here I want to talk about this amount. The amount will change. Driver salary will still remain the same, 900 and 900, but because now you are meeting the expenses, so what will be added is only 600 here and 900 here. That means if it's a small car that is less than or up to 1600 cc, 600 will be added, and if it's a big car, then 900 will be added. Why is a lesser amount added? Because here you are bearing the expenses. Yes, in case of lunches, etc., when you go to join an office, sometimes they give you delicious lunch during working hours. So if they give you lunch, etc., will that be also as a perquisite? Let's discuss that. Lunch, yes, if they give you a lunch which is a lavish lunch and it costed them 1000 rupees, so 1000 will be added. But of course, 50 rupees will be minus. Why 50 will be minus? Because guys, it's okay for them to provide you lunch worth 50 rupees. So 950 will be added in that case. But guys, any refreshments like snacks, or if you go and have tea and coffee in your office, will that also be added to your salary? No, that is very bad. You can't go have a coffee and that will be added to your salary. So lunch, only lunch will be added. Refreshments, tea, coffee, snacks, etc. will not be added. And this lunch also will not be added if it's in a remote area. But this 50 rupees reduction, please remember that in case of lunch. Now, guys, there are employees which are specified employees. That is something that people get very confused, but it's very simple. Who are specified employees and why are we discussing that? Let's quickly look at what is specified employees. Guys, if you're a director in a company, part-time director, full-time director, one-day director, full-year director, if you're a director in a company, then you're a specified employee. Or if your salary after minusing SEP, after minusing all the reduction, etc., if your salary is 50,000 rupees or more, then you're a specified employee. In a year, guys, imagine everyone will have so much salary. Even if as an article, your salary will be more than this. So this is a very low amount, and hence I feel every employee will be specified employee. But still, in the exam, in the book, it's given specified employee. Exam purpose is not very important, but we will still understand it. If you're a director, or if you earn 50,000 or more in a year after deductions, or if you have substantial interest in a company, substantial interest is 20% or more in the shareholding, or 20% or more in partnership firm, etc., then in these three cases you will be called a specified employee. The shortcut is 50 directors are substantial. 50 directors are substantial. That means if your salary is 50,000 or more during the year, annual salary after deduction, if you're a director in a company or you have substantial interest in an entity, then you are a specified employee. And for specified employees, there are certain perquisites. There are certain perquisites which are only and only applicable to specified employees. Who are these perquisites? Which are these perquisites? I'll give you a shortcut. Educated servant, educated servant, medical gas for motor car. So education allowance, servant perquisite, education perquisite, servant perquisite, medical perquisite, gas, electricity, water, that perquisite, and motor car, which is owned by an employer, that perquisite. Guys, these perquisites are only taxable in the case of specified employees. But you don't have to remember it, because guys, most people in an organization, even if you take the smallest peon in an organization, he will also be specified employee, because his salary will be above that limit in today's times. So hence all of them will be specified employees. But in case you need to know what is specified employee, 50 directors are substantial. So 50,000 or more director and substantial interest, we are specified employees. And which perquisites are only applicable to specified employees? Educated servant used medical gas in a motor car. So education perquisite, servant perquisite, medical facility perquisite, gas, electricity, water, that perquisite, and motor car perquisite. These are only applicable to specified employees. Rest, everyone, every perquisite is applicable to everyone. Example, loan is applicable to everyone. And last, guys, if there is any liability of yours that your master has borne, let's say I want to have to pay some bill and my master has paid the bill. Example, you have to pay professional tax. It's your liability, but your master is paying. Even that is your perquisite. So any liability, whose liability is this? This is a slave's liability. The master is paying. If he's paying your liability, guys, if today you pay my credit card my bills, is it not a benefit for me? Hence, guys, if the liability of the slave is paid by the master, then in that case, this will also be a perquisite. Just take the most common one which comes in the exam. The professional tax of the slave is paid by the master. If it's paid by the master, it will be added to the perquisite. And finally, if you paid back to the master, will it be minus? Of course, it will be minus, because SEP, you can minus professional tax. Again, I repeat, guys, if your professional tax is paid by a master, so it's your liability paid by him, so you will add it as a perquisite, yes. And then in SEP, will you also get a minus? Yes, because you ultimately paid it, so hence you'll also get a deduction there. Let's say your wife's credit card bill was paid by a master, then in that case it's your liability or your wife's liability your master is paying, so you'll add it to the perquisite value. So this is your liability discharged by the master. And this completes SAP and SEP. Now the last thing before we move to retirement benefits is relief under section 89. Let's look at one really important thing, which is relief under section 89. Now, this relief is only and only available for salaried people And when they get some arrears or advance salary, guys, this is only when you get some arrears of salary or advance salary. Let's understand these two terms. Arrears of salary basically means it belongs to some previous year. But if it was due in that year, it would have been taxed in that year itself, but maybe it was not due in that year. Example, in our surgeon's son's case, he fought with Air India for a higher salary, but it was never given to him while he was in Air India. And when he quit Air India and joined SpiceJet, and now after a couple of years, Air India revised saying that, listen, we will pay higher salary not from now, but from 4 years back. So he got some extra money in that case. Or if you take any advance salary, then in that case, relief under section 89 may be applicable if these steps are proved to be right. Guys, let's look at step 1, step 2, and step 3. These are all in the current year. So in the current year and in the current year, all these three steps are in the current year. In the current year, you take all your salary, that means your current salary income plus your arrears or advance, and you calculate the tax on it. Tax, when I say tax, I mean tax plus surcharge plus cess. Then you take only your salary, you don't take arrears and advance, you don't take that, and then you calculate your tax. And step 3 is nothing but step 1 minus step 2. So basically what we are trying to see is, because of this advance or arrears of salary that you received this year, are you paying more tax than what you would have had to pay otherwise, because suddenly you're in the higher slab. All right, that is step 1, step 2, step 3. Same way, guys, are step 4, step 5, and step 6, but these are of that year which to which the arrears belong, or where the advance has come. So if the arrears belong to 3 years back, then go 3 years back. So I'm calling it that year, TY, that year. It's a new term only for you and me to understand. That year is the year by which the arrears belong, or from where the advances come. So that year, in the first step, again, you will go in step number 4, salary, plus had the arrears or the advance received in that year, what would be the tax? Of course, how would you guess the tax rates? The exam question will give you the tax rates of that year. Next, only salary, not the advance and not the arrears, and you calculate the tax. And then you calculate S4 minus S5. Basically, here you're trying to see, had you got that arrears or advance in that year, then what would be the tax, including it and excluding it, and you get difference. So you have S3 and S6. And only if S3 minus S6 is positive, that means your S3, that means this difference is more than S6 difference, then that positive amount will be relief under section 89. So relief under section 89 has 6 steps. 3 steps are in the current year and 3 steps are in that year to which the arrears or advance arise. Please calculate tax, including surcharge, including cess, the total tax payable, and find out the difference. And go to that year and find out the total tax payable and find out the difference. And the difference of S3 minus X6, if it's positive, then that positive amount is your relief under section 89. And with that, guys, we've completed salaries in terms of SAP, SEP, and relief. The only thing left, which are retirement benefits, which we will deal right away. And as we get closer and closer towards ending income from salaries, the only thing that is left now is retirement benefits. Retirement benefits basically means, because you worked hard in an organization, they reward you by making certain payments. And for that, guys, the shortcut is here. The shortcut is, gradually people leave, retire, voluntary retire, post service. And it's logical also, because gradually people will either leave, they will either retire, or they will voluntarily retire post service. And guys, this is all the gratuity or all the retirement benefits that you get. Let's plug in the words here. Gradually is gratuity. This is pension, P for pension. This is leave salary. This is retrenchment compensation. This is VRS compensation, voluntary retirement scheme compensation. This is provident fund, and this is superannuation fund. We will plug in the sections also in the end. As you know, the sections are all in one line and they have a shortcut as well to remember all of this, guys. But first, let's start, and we'll start from the back. Superannuation fund. Let's take one by one. Guys, the first one is superannuation fund. Your master contributes to this fund for your benefit. What is superannuation fund? It's a normal fund where money is contributed by employer also, that is a master also. You may also contribute it if you like it, but your contribution we'll see in chapter deduction under chapter 6A. But right now your master is contributing some money. If he is contributing some money, let's say he contributes 1,60,000 rupees, will it be added? Of course, it's your benefit, it's for your benefit. So whenever he contributes, In superannuation fund, whenever he contributes, that 1 lakh 60 will be added to your salary. And do you get a minus? Yes. Up to 1 lakh 50, you will get a deduction or an exemption. That means up to 1 lakh 50, if he contributes, there will be no tax. Only on that 10,000 that extra that he's contributing, that will be taxable in your salary. What if he contributes only 1.5 lakh? Then nothing will be added. What if he contributes 1 lakh 40? Then nothing will be added. What if he contributes 1 lakh 60? Then 10,000 will be added. So basically, you have to keep in mind that employer's contribution, it's for your benefit, so you'll add it, but you'll get an exemption up to 1 lakh 50,000. That is superannuation fund. Let's go to the next one, that is provident fund. Guys, provident fund are a different kinds, and again, provident fund is a fund which is for your benefit, so that when you retire or when you leave the organization or when you start your own business, you can remove this provident fund and use that money. So this is for your benefit. Now guys, the government has a contribution which is to a statutory provident fund. A statutory provident fund is generally used by government employees, and when the employer puts money in this fund, is it for the employee's benefit? Or when the master puts money in the fund, is it for the slave's benefit? Yes, it is for the slave's benefit, but that is exempt, no taxation, whatever he contributes. Even the interest when the slave earns, exempt, and even when he withdraws it, it is exempt. So it's EEE. It's a very rare thing. So statutory provident fund is EE when the master contributes also, when there is interest also, and when there is withdrawal also. What if the slave contributes, guys? When the slave contributes, we will see it in deduction in chapter 6, that chapter. Next is recognized provident fund. So your EY, KPMG, Citibank, Kotak Bank will contribute to a recognized provident fund. Guys, this also there is EEE. So when the master contributes, is it exempt? Yes. The interest on it, is it exempt? Yes. And the withdrawal, is it exempt? Yes. But there are three conditions. When the master contributes, it is exempt only up to 12% of salary. So I'm just putting 12% of salary, and salary, as you know, is BDC. The interest that you earn is also exempt up to 9.5%. So if the provident fund pays you 10%, then that 0.5% will be taxable. And last, the withdrawal will be exempted, yes, but it's only after 5 years. So within the 5 years, it is not allowed. So within the 5 years, if you are lose patience and you remove the money because you can see that money and you lose patience and withdraw the money, then in that case, it will be taxable. But there's an exception unless it's for unemployment, or if it's for ill health, or because you become handicapped, etc., and you withdraw it, then it's considered okay, and then it's not taxable. You have to prove those things. Again, I repeat, guys, master's contribution up to 12% is no problem. Beyond that is taxable. Interest up to 9.5%, no problem, and above that will be taxable. And withdrawal after 4 years, 5 years, no problem. Within that 5 years will be taxable, but there's an exception to that. And last is there's an unrecognized provident fund, and no one knows where this fund is. So we tease it, and our shortcut is to remember that it's in a drawer in the office of the employer or the master. If he puts it in a drawer, guys, who knows about it? So will it be added? So when he contributes and he puts it in the drawer, will it be added? No, because it's not reached you. The interest, if it's earned in the drawer, will it be added into your hands? No, because not reaches you. But when you finally leave the organization or when you retire, etc., and he removes the money from the drawer, that is from the unrecognized provident fund, and he pays you, will it be taxable? Yes, it will be taxable. Is there any benefit on this? No, there is no benefit, because this is non-recognized provident fund. How will it be taxable? Whatever is the amount of provident fund, that will be taxable under salaries. Whatever is the amount of interest, that will be taxable under IFOS. As you know, guys, this is provident fund. The only thing we've not dealt here is the slave's contribution, which we will see in deduction under chapter 6A. So two things done. We'll plug in the sections later. Next, look at VRS, voluntary retirement scheme. Guys, in voluntary retirement scheme, you worked in an organization for a couple of years, and the organization does not need you. Like example, banks, when they had now they are computerized banking, so they didn't want so many employees, so they prepare a scheme which is called VRS, voluntary retirement scheme. So they ask people who want to retire, they can voluntarily retire before the retirement age. Guys, generally it's more than, if you're in the 40s only then, or 40s or 50s only then it is offered to you. And if you've completed for 10 years of service, then it is offered to you. And there's some conditions. Once you are removed from the organization, they cannot fill up that position, and they cannot hire you in any other company of the same management. Those are some conditions for VRS. But let's look at taxability. When you retire, voluntary retirement, you get a compensation. How is it taxed? Of course, let's say you get a compensation of 12 lakh rupees. So that 12 lakh will first be added, because it's a benefit to you. Yes, it's a benefit to you. When you receive it, it will first be added. And can you have an exemption from that? Yes, you can have an exemption, which is least of the following. The exemption will be least of the following. Let's see which are the three things least of, or four things the least of. Guys, here you will see backwards how many years you've completed, and you will see for front how many years are pending. So here, first is voluntary retirement compensation received. Whatever amount you've received, that's the A part. There requires no calculation. Here it's 12 lakhs which you've received. So this will be 12 lakhs. Then B is a small standard amount, and the standard amount or the statutory limit is 5 lakhs. This is constant. So 5 lakhs, 12 lakhs is an example, 5 lakhs is constant. Next, C and D, guys, VRS basically means that that's the last salary that you will get, because after that there will be no money that the company will pay you. So that's the last salary drawn, last salary drawn. And here also it's last salary drawn. So C and D both are last salary drawn. Into look back how many years you've completed. Let's say you completed 15 years in the organization. So 3 into 15 years, and these 15 years, nowhere it's rounded off. So if you've completed 15 years and 9 months also, it will still be 15 years. So look back how many years you've completed, multiplied by 3, and look ahead how many months are left. Let's say 6 years are left. So 6 years into 12, or 72 months, you'll have to multiply it, and least of the following amounts will be allowed as an exemption under VRS. So VRS, you look back and you'll see how many years you've completed. You look ahead, and that's why the section also comes. We'll see the sections later on. But least of the following, the VRS that you've received, or 5 lakh rupees is the standard amount, or the last salary drawn. How will you remember? Last is basically after VRS, you'll not get any amount. So last salary drawn into how many years you look back into 3, or how many months looking ahead, multiplied by that, and that you get VRS exemption. Next, retrenchment. Retrenchment is a very bad thing, but we'll do retrenchment after we've done gratuity, because they are interlinked to each other. So we'll do both of them one after the other immediately. Next, we look at leave salary. Guys, leave salary basically means you're always around in an organization, and because you're always around, you don't take leaves. At the end of the period, when you retire or when you're leaving the organization, they calculate it and they pay you money. That's called leave salary or leave encashment. So here is leave salary, and let's say you're always around, so they paid you at the time of retirement, etc. They paid you 12 lakhs again. So what will you do? You'll add it, because of course it's coming as a benefit to you. And will you get an exemption here also? You will get least of the following, which is great. So let's see what is the least of the following. Again, first one is the same, leave salary received. So how much have you received? Example, 12 lakhs you received, either that, or B, that is a flat amount, a statutory limit of 3 lakh. This is a standard amount. C and D both are based on one common amount, which is called average salary. When I say salary, BDC, and average means 10 months average. So you see, whichever month you're retiring, let's say you're retiring today, that is 21st of May. So you'll take from April and you'll go back 10 months. So April, March, Feb, Jan, 4 months. And then 5 months, that is December, November, October, September, August, 5 months. So those 5 months, whatever the average salary, salary means B, D, and C, nothing else, guys. B, is basic, D, is DNS, which is retirement benefits, and C is a percentage of turnover. If one of them is not given, no problem. You take only whatever is given in B, D, C. Average salary, you multiply with two amounts. One is you multiply with 10, so 10 times of the average salary, and next you multiply with the pending leaves in terms of months. Now, what is this pending leaves in terms of months? So let's say you worked in an organization for 20 years, and every year you are eligible to get 40 leaves, but you cannot take 40, maximum capping is 30. So 20 years into 30 leaves is 600 leaves. You got 600 leaves. You had 600 leaves to your credit. But any leaves that you've used, any leaves that you've availed, or any leaves that you've encashed, again I repeat, any leaves that you've used, you went for a holiday, you took some leaves, you availed certain leaves, or you encashed certain leaves. Let's say 150 leaves you already availed, so you'll minus that, so 450 leaves remain. But you don't have to multiply with 450 days, you have to multiply with months. So basically that is 15. So here you'll multiply it with 15. Again I repeat, a leave salary, what is, you'll add the benefit first and you'll minus the leaves for the following: leave salary received, or a flat amount of 3 lakhs. You keep the month of 3 in mind, 10 months average salary into 10, or into leave salary in terms of pending leaves in terms of months. That is your leave salary, because you're always around. Now guys, last two left, and then we do retrenchment. Pension. Pension is interesting and is very common. Pension we associate with government employees generally. So can you get pension? Yes, you can. How is it taxable? Let's see. So we're looking at pension. And quickly guys, pension are two kinds. One is monthly pension. Monthly pension is called, in our language, in the institute language, uncommuted pension. That means monthly you'll get some amount. The monthly amount is taxable just like you tax salaries. So it's just taxed like salaries under income from salaries. But you've retired, but still it will be taxable under salaries, because you get this pension because you had a job. After you, your family will also get this pension, and they will be taxable under IFOS. But this guys is taxable, and hence there is no problem here. But it's the commuted pension, and commuted I mean lump sum pension, guys, the lump sum pension. So let's say you don't want a pension monthly wise, or you want part monthly, part lump sum, and you demand for lump sum benefit. So that lump sum, let's say you take 10 lakh rupees, so that 10 lakh will be added, and let's say this 10 lakh is 75% of your total pension. So you said 75% I want commuted, so they give you 75%, that is 10 lakhs. So if This pension, what will you do is first you will add it, and then you will minus half of total pension, which is great. So half of the total pension you'll get as a reduction. But guys, how do you calculate total pension? So if 10 lakhs is 75%, what is 100%? That's how we'll calculate it. So 100 into 10 divided by 75, so that is 13.33. So 13 lakh 33,000 divided by 2. So 6,66,000 is the exemption. 6,66,667 is the exemption. Again, I repeat, half of the total pension will be the exemption. But guys, if you are already getting, but there is an exception to this. If you're rich means you're already getting pension plus you're also getting gratuity, then in that case, you'll not get half the deduction. You'll get only 1/3 of the total pension as a deduction. But if you're a judge of the Supreme Court or High Court, then don't worry. You will still get, even if you're rich, you will still get half the total pension as a deduction. Guys, this is pension. And please remember monthly pension, that is called uncommuted, and lump sum is called commuted. And the deduction is not half of monthly or half of uncommuted, it's half of total pension. And we're left only with the last one, that is gratuity. Let's look at gratuity, and gratuity is linked to the retrenchment. So we'll do both of them back to back. Gratuity is a big thank you because you worked in an organization continuously for a couple of years. They want to thank you. And the best way to tell you a big thank you is to give you a gratuity payment. So let's say the gratuity that you received is 25 lakh rupees. So of course you will add it, because whenever you receive, except statutory superannuation fund and except a provident fund, everything else is taxable when it's received. Example, gratuity, leave salary, retrenchment, pension, whenever it's received, it's taxable. So here also it's taxable, and you'll get an exemption. Yes, you will get an exemption to the least of the following. So let's see what is the least of the following. Least of, and here guys, we are assuming you are covered under POGA. I'm assuming you are covered under POGA. Under POGA means you're covered under the Payment of Gratuity Act. So it makes it compulsory for that company to pay gratuity. So if you're covered by POGA, then it's least of the following. The first is, that is the gratuity received. That is 25 lakhs. Second is a big thank you. So statutory limit is big here. Statutory limit, guys, this is statutory limit, and the statutory limit is 20 lakhs. It's a big amount, so it's a big thank you. And the third one is 15 by 26. First, let me write it down, and then I'll explain. 15 by 26 into last month's BDOD into completed number of years rounded off. Let me explain. 15 is half the month. By 26, why 26? Because Sundays you don't include. So half a month, 15 by 26, not 15 by 30. BDOD, this is an exception, and that's why I'm writing it. Otherwise, we only write salary. Here is BDOD, basic plus dearness in retirement benefits, and other dearness also, you add all of that. But which months? Last months. And completed number of years rounded off. Rounded off means if you completed 15 years and 6 months, it will be rounded off to 16 years. But 15 years and 6 months exact, you'll come back. 15 years, 6 months, and 1 day also, you'll go to the next month, next year. So this you will calculate, and that's gratuity. And guys, if it's non-POGA, three things will change. Here are the three things. If it's non-POGA, that means if you're not covered by the Payment of Gratuity Act, 15 by 26, A will remain the same, B will remain the same, but these three things will change. If it's non-POGA, I'll write it here only. If it's non-POGA, what are the three things that will change? A will remain the same, B will remain the same. Here it will become 15 by 30. Here it will become 10 years BDC. So 15 by 30, one change. BDOD becomes 10 years BDC, 10 years average, 10 months average, 10 months average BDC. And this becomes completed years without rounded off. Three things will change. 15 by 26 becomes 15 by 30. BDOD becomes 10 months average BDC, and completed number of years will become completed number of years, but without rounded off. That is non-POGA. That is gratuity. And last, guys, retrenchment compensation. Retrenchment compensation is basically whenever you're leaving an organization. Retrenchment compensation is basically whenever you're leaving an organization, or whenever an organization is downsizing. Unfortunately, it's a very bad thing. They make you leave, and they pay you a certain compensation. Let's say they're paying you 7 lakh rupees. So you will add that 7 lakhs first. That is the compensation that you received. So you will add the 7 lakhs. And will you minus something? Yes, you will minus least of the following. What is least, guys? Same like gratuity. So A is the amount that you receive, that is 10 lakhs, 7 lakhs. Or B is the statutory limit, but here the statutory limit is small, so 5 lakhs. Statutory limit only big for gratuity, guys, is 20 lakhs. For leave salary is 3 lakhs, because 3 is a number for leave salary, and everywhere else it's 5 lakhs. Or C is the same like gratuity, that is 15 by 26 into BDOD into completed number of years rounded off. Same like gratuity. Only thing is BDOD is 3 months average BDOD. So I repeat, retrenchment compensation is a bad thing. So in that case, whatever you get is an added least of the following amount received, or 5 lakhs, or 15 by 26 into BDOD into complete number of years rounded off. But BDOD's only thing is 3 months. There it was only BDOD. Here it is 3 months average. That completes the list, guys. Let's look at the sections. Let's add the sections and complete this retirement benefits. You start this exemption with 10-10 because that's the first thing. Next is 10-10A because that's the next thing. Gradually, people leave. You're always around, and because of that, you get leave salary. So always around. So 10-10 AA, always around. Retrenchment, guys, is a bad thing. They ask you to leave an organization, so it's a bad thing. So 10-10P. VRS, guys, you look back and you look in front. Remember, you look back how many years you completed into 3, and you look in front how many months is remaining. So 10-10C because you see ahead and you see behind. And this is 10-11. This one you don't require a section. So this, guys, completes your retirement benefit. If you understood this, guys, I'm just going to summarize salary. Salary is nothing but SAP minus SEP. So SAP is salary, allowances, perquisites. Remember, allowances, A for allowance, A for add. And after that, you will remember, I'm just repeating the shortcuts, guys. The shortcut is HRA can demotivate, hurt, heartbeat. That is the shortcut for 1013A and 1014. 2 judges, UN abroad, that is completely exempt allowances, and other allowance like tiffin allowance, medical allowance, servant allowance will all be added. A for allowance, A for add. Perquisites, you'll evaluate and you will add it. Please remember, specified employee is 50 directors are substantial. And in that, which are the perquisites which are only applicable to specified employees? Educated, servant, medical, gas, motor car. These are the only ones for specified employees. But honestly, guys, in the exam, they will not want to test you on that. They will want to test you on other things. SEP, salary deduction, entertainment allowance deduction, which is only for government employees if he gets entertainment allowance, and professional tax if you've paid it. Your liability, any of it paid by a master will be added. And remember, relief under 89, 6 steps. And gradually people retire, volunteer retire. Gradually people leave, retire, volunteer retire, post service. Let's look at an exam question. Guys, quickly, let's look at an exam question. On the screen is an exam question. Let's see it. This is, I think, a November. No, not this one. 1 second. Just 1 second, guys. Let's look at one question and let's look at Mrs. Mithul. I won't be able to write it down, but we'll discuss it. Mrs. Mithul, a resident individual, age 63 years. Whenever they give you 63 years, that means they want to calculate your tax also. Is a qualified medical practitioner, guys. She might also be a surgeon. She runs her own clinic. Income and expenditure account of Mrs. Mithul for the year is this. Guys, this is income and expenditure. In the income, I can see salary. But guys, she is basically running her own clinic. So where is the salary coming from? If you can receive by salary received from True Care Hospitals Private Limited, 1,80,000. So we are only discussing the salary aspect right now. Let's go below, guys, and you'll see salary, explanatory information. She is working part-time with True Care Hospitals Limited. Her salary details are as under. As and when we look at it, we lose SAP and SEP. Basic pay, guys, this is B, 13,000 per month, assuming she's worked for the entire month. 13,000 into 12, 1,56,000 you will add in her salaries. Transport allowance, guys, A for allowance, A for add. So 2,000 into 12, 24,000 you will add allowance. But can you minus transport? Yes, guys, amount spent except from home to office and back. So if you see other information, conveyance expenses include a sum of 12,000. So she has some expense incurred for conveyance from house to the hospital and back, guys, but this is not allowed as a deduction. Was there any other transport you would have taken a deduction, but this one is not allowed, so no deduction until now. So total is 15,000, which we already taken. Next, guys, during the year XYZ year, doesn't matter which year, guys, her son had undergone a medical treatment in True Care Hospitals Private Limited free of cost. The hospital would have charged a sum of 60,000 for a similar treatment to unrelated patients, guys. So medical treatment, this is a perquisite. Let's go to medical facility in India. Is it first one of those people? Yes, guys, your spouse and your children, always parents and siblings are dependent. Here it is a son, so this will be considered. But guys, here it's not a private hospital, it's your own self-managed hospital. True Care Hospital itself is providing it, and in that case there is no perquisite. So here what will come in salaries? Your basic will come, your transport will come. You will have no exemption from transport allowance because it's from home to office. You'll get marks for that. And for this perquisite is not taxable. because it is in the own hospital. Guys, that is an examination question. This is about 4 marks from salaries chapter. Please remember, guys, salary is a very interesting chapter and it might come. Charging section is section 15. Because you've not done sections, I'll tell you section charging section is section 15, which is the basic charging section, which says salary will be taxed on due or receipt basis, whichever is earlier. The deductions of SEP are under section 16, and the perquisites are under section 17.2. These are the main sections, but otherwise the main sections are the one which are exemptions, like section 1013A, section 1014, section 107. These are the main exemptions. Salary chapter is over, guys. SAP minus SEP, relief and retirement benefits summarizes the entire income from salaries. If you have any doubt, reach out, comment here below for any question that you might have, and see you soon for the next revision lecture. All the best.